turned in on time. This project write-up is due after class on Wednesday.
Did you say after class on Wednesday?
Yes.
The online is until 10 o'clock.
Yeah, 10 o'clock. So through Wednesday, after 10 o'clock, it's going to be late. Late equals minus 20%. Yeah, we want this done on time. After Monday, December 5, after class, so this is after 3:30 p.m., Monday, December 5, no credit. No credit equals F for the course. You have to get this done. I have to turn in to the General Education Committee that you guys have done a project as part of the evaluation for this class. So, no project equals enough for the class. You can try again the next semester. You probably don't want that to happen, especially if you have an A going into this and you really don't want to repeat this work again. So my suggestion is aim for this project to be done by 10 o'clock Wednesday night. Yeah, as in day after tomorrow. Yeah, Wednesday, November 3rd. So the last day in November is when this is due. This is the write-up. If to date you have done all the other parts, this write-up is not that hard. It will take you time to do it. If you're still working on the descriptive analysis and the inferential analysis, my suggestion is spend a few wakeful nights to get it done by Wednesday at 10. It's going to take you some time to get it completed. I've broken the project up all semester. We've done bits and pieces of it all semester. So if you have stayed up to date on this project, you should be able to finish it. This is not that difficult to finish. So let's talk about this write-up. This is a rubric for it. Each part of this rubric can have up to 5 points. A 0 means it's incomplete. There wasn't anything really for me to grade. If it's completed, but completed poorly, you get a 1. If you complete it very well, you get a 5, and everything in between is gradated in between that. So it's a Likert scale from 1 to 5. 0 means you didn't complete it. That means there's a total of 130 points for this write-up. So if you look at the introduction right here, the introduction part A, you get 5 points. This simply says an introduction section labeled as such was the first section of the project write-up. 5 points for that. Include the introduction. And your introduction is going to be labeled like that. If you look at any professional articles, they have a label in bold, and then the paragraph starts on the next line. And that's where the discussion is. So you're going to have introduction on your first line here, and then on your next line, you're going to start your paragraph for your introduction. Above this, you're going to have your name and this is a statistics project. So you're going to put that someplace on the top of your page, and then introduction is where it's going to start. You do not need a title page as far as this goes, just as long as you get your name on that first page, where it will be fine. What needs to go into the introduction? The introduction needs to discuss the topic under consideration. By the way, what is the topic of our project? Arm length and height. And specifically, we're trying to discuss what is a cubit. That is our question that we're trying to answer. How would you measure a cubit? So that was the whole point of making this project. So the topic under consideration, go back and find references to cubit, why someone would be interested in understanding what a cubit is, and then comparing, we're going to discuss a comparison between the arm lengths of men and women and the height to the arm length. So 3 comparisons that we're looking at. Include in that a motivation for studying this topic. That's going to be also your, what is a cubit? Why would someone care to know anything about a cubit? So your motivation for studying the topic. What do you expect to learn by studying this topic? Now, thankfully, you've already pretty much finished studying this topic, so you know what you're going to learn. Cheat, put it down here. Okay? Tell us what you expect to learn, what you did learn. And then, how did you collect your data? Give a description. Part of that is we collected it from the class. We have our I guess it's about 65 data points from the class. And then the rest of it you had to collect on your own. Give a short discussion of that. How you collected your data is very, very important to the general audience when they're reading your results to know how valid your results are. So discuss how you collected the data, and then state the methods used in the descriptive and inferential sections below. So what methods did you use? You found your mean and your standard deviation, sample mean, sample standard deviation. Then we compared those using our box and whisker plots in our histograms, and we did an analysis in the inferential statistics using a confidence interval, a hypothesis test, and a scatter plot. Now, you don't have to include all of that data in this write-up, but you have to include enough data to support your results. So you don't have to tell me all of the means and standard deviations, but give me any pertinent means and standard deviations. Give me anything that would help to describe this data set. Include in your description of the data set whether you think we have some data points that appear to be outliers. Are they vastly different from other data points? And tell me why you think that would have happened. You know, somebody measured something wrong, somebody typed some data in incorrectly, that type of thing. Look at your data points. You can see this especially from the scatter plots. You have a few points lying off all by themselves. If you remove those data points, how does your scatter plot look? How does R squared become? Does it change R squared? That type of thing, you can discuss that. Talk about some errors in the data entry, because we did obviously have some. If you look at that sample of data, you have some errors in there. How would you treat those errors in real life? Well, the exact same thing I'm asking you to do right now. Remove them, compare the results. Are they vastly different, or are they very similar? That's what we do when we have errors in there. So make sure you discuss all of that up here in your introduction. Each of these is 5 points. So when I'm grading this, I don't want to have to go searching for this information. Make it very plain, very obvious to me that all that data is there. You can take this rubric and write your paper just based off of the rubric. It flows from one section to the next. It goes in the order I'm looking for the information to be in. So if you type it up using this order, it'll make it a lot easier for me to grade. So make sure that you're giving me all this information. Now, these last two are going to be the same all the way through. Question?
If we highlight or outline our points like you do here in the rubric, will it make it easier for you? Or
Don't do any highlighting inside each of the sections. Yeah. I would like to say yes, you can do that, but that's not a professional paper. So yeah, this is aiming for professional quality paper. Yeah. Unfortunately, yes, it would make it really easy for me. No, we can't do that. Okay. Appropriate sentence and paragraph structure. You remember those guys over there on the opposite end of the promenade? They taught you English? Hopefully, they tried. I'm using their same rules to grade this. So, use their same rules when you write it. You can always go to the Writing Center and have someone proofread it with you if you want after it's written. The Writing Center will not write it for you. They will not change all your sentence structure for you, but they will help you with it. If you want, you can go over there. You can also have your friends read it. Having a second set of eyes on it makes life a lot easier. And then the introductory section was well thought out and flowed well from one part to the next. That means that you have a hypothesis statement at the beginning, and you have a conclusion statement at the end, and everything in between was pertinent to the topic at hand. Let me explain something to you guys about writing in mathematics. You use the minimum number of words possible to get across the topic that you're discussing, and not another word at all. If you can fit this into one page, I'm ecstatic. I'm not weighing your paper to see if it's long enough. I just care that you get the content in it.
There's no size requirement. It's just
No
getting
size
it.
requirement whatsoever. That means I don't want you trying to make 2.5 inch margins instead of 1.5 margins or inch margins just to get a size requirement. I am not counting the number of words you have typed up. You do not have to have a minimum number of pages. You have to meet the topic at hand, and you have to tell me what that topic is in as few words as you possibly can. Do not elaborate.
You don't mind reading 0.9 font.
The reason I have glasses is because I cannot read tiny font. Yes, no 0.9 font. Use 12-point font. 12-point font makes me happy. A bigger font makes me happier. But I'm not checking for a length on this, guys. You just have to cover this information right here. And if you can get it to flow real nice in 2 or 3 sentences for the introduction, I'm ecstatic. Most reports are done single spaced. Most reports are single spaced. And guys, you can use graphs. So if you want to put your histograms in and stuff like that, that makes it look pretty and professional. We're aiming for professional, so put it in there. Make it look pretty and professional. And then when you read it, make sure it says what you think it said. So after you're done typing it up, read it out loud to yourself. Make sure it said what you think it said. That's the hardest part. Okay, that's the introduction. The introduction, if you look, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You have, I missed these two. You have 40 points for the introduction right here. That is the hardest section to write, actually. On the descriptive analysis, same type of idea. You have to discuss the means and standard deviations that you got. Only discuss the pertinent ones. So if you only want to discuss the means and standard deviations for the arm length for the men and the women separately, that's fine. You don't have to necessarily discuss all the other means and standard deviations unless it supports your topic, unless you need it to give an idea of your data. So only discuss what is important to the data. Yes.
Why do we have right benchmark?
The cubit is the distance from your elbow to your fingertips.
Yes. Well, why did we measure height?
Why did we measure height? To determine if the cubit is related to the height of a person.
Okay.
Yeah. And that we're going to get to in our scatter diagram. Yeah.
So we're basically just doing all this delineated because it's a reasonable unit of measurement.
Exactly. And if it is, what is it? Does it vary drastically between men and women? Does it vary between the height of a person? Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly what we're trying to understand. On the descriptive analysis, make sure that you include appropriate graphs. So histograms would be nice if you have some histograms or something like that, or a box and whisker plot. But appropriate graphs to support your discussion is very nice, so make sure you include some graphs there. Give a verbal discussion of the descriptive analysis. And the verbal discussion has to use appropriate paragraph and sentence structure, and it has to flow well. It doesn't jump from one part to another without some in-between tying words. Here again, your descriptive analysis may only be 4 or 5 sentences in length. It doesn't have to be really long. It has to tell me what your data was like and convey to the reader what was actually happening. Question?
And you want like diagrams and whatnot in there as well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. Put some diagrams in there. Not a whole bunch, just what you need to explain what your data looked like. Comment on any outliers. This is a great place to comment if you have any outliers and stuff like that. You'll see that in the histograms. You see that in your box and whisker plots. So comment on those outliers as well. You'll notice that this has only 25 points. Descriptive analysis has only 25 points. Inferential analysis, just like the descriptive analysis, You're gonna state the test you used, and I do want to see a hypothesis test in here. Most people report hypothesis tests. You can also tell me about your confidence interval if you want. On the hypothesis test, make sure you give the null and alternate hypotheses. And you can do this with symbols, just like we did on the test, you know, mu1 minus mu2 equals 0, mu1 minus mu2 bigger than 0 or not equal to 0, whichever way you have it set up. Make sure you define which population is the first population, which population is the second. In other words, which one was the female arm lengths and which ones were the male arm lengths, that type of thing. Give that information. Give me the p-value and draw conclusions. Do not give me a test statistic that is never reported when you're reading the data. They only tell you p-values. So just give me a p-value and then draw the conclusions about the test. What does that mean in words about the information? That's the first part. That's hypothesis testing. Then the scatter plot. I want to see the scatter plot, so include the graph of the scatter plot. You tell me about R and R squared. Give a verbal discussion of what that means. Is there a correlation between the height of a person and their arm length? That was what we did for our scatter plot. And how strongly or weakly correlated is it based off of the value of R and R squared? And that's your inferential analysis, and then your conclusions come after that. This one has 30 points each, 5 points for each one of them, so 30 points for the inferential. And then the last one is the conclusion. The conclusion, you get 5 points for including the conclusion, because this is also something more difficult to write. It's at the end. A conclusion is usually only 3 or 4 sentences in length. It's usually not long at all. What you're going to tell me is what you did. Now, it seems kind of dumb to tell me at the beginning what you're going to do, and then tell me at the end what you did. But that's the only parts that many people read in a paper. So those are important, even though you're already discussing it in 2 separate places. Some people will only glance at the introduction, and if that looks entertaining, they'll go look at your conclusions and see exactly what results you got. And if that looks more entertaining yet, then they'll go read the entire paper. So, your conclusions need to be there, even if you're just reiterating what is in your introduction. That's fine. Reiterate it. In the conclusion, give a summary of the data collection process. Summarize the descriptive and inferential statistics outcomes and any conclusions that you came to about it. Should you use the length of any forearm to measure a cubit, or is there a better way to approximate that measurement? Is everybody's forearm approximately the same, or are there vast differences in that length? That's what we're trying to understand here. And you get 5 points here again for each one of these. Giving you 35 points right here. That is what I'm looking for. This is due 10 o'clock Wednesday night. Don't procrastinate. This is going to take you a little while to type up and make it look professional. I want to see a professional quality paper here. Please, 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 above all things, proofread it. I don't want to find your typos. It's really bad for you to get low points for typos. You don't want to mess up your grade on typos. You can check it. Word tells you when something is not spelled correctly. It gives you an idea when you're grammatically incorrect. So check it. Make sure that you've got it well typed up before you turn it in. That's the best thing you can do. Question?
Is this project heavily weighed?
This project is not heavily weighed on your whole grade. I believe it's only about 10 or 15% of your overall grade. Not in comparison to the test. The tests are, I think, 40%. The finals, 25%.
So should we just look at our grade to determine whether we're going to take it final or not?
Oh, I will be sending emails out about that. But I will be sending them out next week. After this period. What's happening? Wednesday, we're not actually meeting for class. Wednesday, I'm in my office. If you have any questions on anything, something isn't working for you, You want to know, did I do it okay before I turn it in? You can come find me on Wednesday. I'm also in my office tomorrow, 9:30 to 11, and then 12 to 1. So if you need some help with anything, you can come get help then too. We are meeting for class. Let's double check. Oh, I left my syllabus in my, does someone have a syllabus here? The syllabus is in my book and I left that in my office. We have a makeup test day coming up, I know that much, and I have to make that announcement. Syllabus. Okay, so we are meeting on Monday, December 5, a week from today. A week from today is a review for the final. At that time, you will know whether you have to take the final or not. I will send out emails to you guys. Wednesday, December 7, the last day before finals, is our makeup test day. You do not have to come to class unless you're on my list of students who have to retake a test, make up a test. Not retake, it's makeup. If you're on that list, I will be emailing you sometime in the middle of this week to let you know that you're on that list and which test that I'm planning for you to be making up. So, as far as your planning, plan on having this completed by 10 o'clock Wednesday night. I would use the rest of today's class period. You have 45 minutes to get started working on it. And then you have all class period on Wednesday. This is due 10 o'clock Wednesday night. We will not meet for class on Wednesday. We will meet again on Monday. Any questions on that? Yeah.
Just have a question about the project. So the art objective is to know how to measure.
Yeah, we're trying to figure out, can any person use their form or is that vastly different from you guys and girls, or is it really engineering? Remember, a cube is a measure as the measurement it's a measurement using the Bible. So we're trying to figure out, is your, like, the student's language,
Also, so like the cubic is like a set.
So we want to know, are guys' arms the same as girls' arms, the same as, you know, did anyone measure it or choose you better off? On, hey guys, to be exempt from the final, you have to have a 98% on everything in the class going into the final exam. With the exception of the health extra credit, because I will not get that graded before the final. So, going into the final exam, after the last test, which I graded and have to get back to you guys, don't forget. And then this project, after this project is graded, then I'll be sending out the email to everybody about what the scores are. I think that there's one or two classwork stuff that still hasn't been recorded yet. Yeah.
Is it 90% on every assignment or
98% overall. 98% overall. An A+ grade in the class is 98%. I can't give an A+ grade on data tell, so that's my reward for the A+ grade. Yeah, so 98% overall average could be a good from the final. You still have to do the review for the final though, and so you'll want to start working on that anyway. It's not that difficult.
is it graded?
The review? Well, I check it to make sure you complete it. You're actually going to turn it in.
Is it online or not?
Yeah, it's on eClass. Yeah, it is not on the website, guys. The review for the finals on eClass. Good question. What? Yeah. The review for the final, guys, is extra credit for the final exam.